One of the questions coming in through the Leadership Value Lab members is when to let go in business. And it typically comes in a couple of areas. It's around people and it's around initiatives. And I believe that everything we do should be done at least with the intent of making things measurably better, and that everything else is a waste of time and resources. And sometimes we get it wrong with the absolute best of intentions. So taking the people part first, I believe when you do it right, every team member should know exactly where they stand regarding performance and what's expected 100% of the time. They should just have that. And when you bring a team member on board, think of it as an investment. And it's a simple math calculation. If you pay $15 an hour or $300,000 or $500,000 a year, what's the ROI going to be on that investment? And I love the idea of being just so clear to say, look, we're hiring you to create this value. Here's what needs to happen. This is what you're going to own. This is how we're going to measure it. What do you think about that? And virtually every time they say, absolutely, I believe I can do that. And then add the second part of that conversation. Wonderful. Now, if you fall below this line at any point in time, this isn't going to work because we're investing to get this return, and all the team members in the organization depend on this. Super important. And every time I've had that conversation, the answer has always been, wow, if I can't hit that, then they'll say sometimes, hey, something's wrong with me. And I always say, no, nothing's wrong with you. You're trying. And if it doesn't work out somewhere in the future, we appreciate that you tried and we'll help you with the transition. It's not personal at all. It's something we need for the business. So when it comes to the people side, a lot of leaders hold on way too long. They're afraid to have the conversation. They haven't been clear about what's expected and where they stand regarding performance. So it becomes a very difficult conversation. A lot of times the direct report they need to let go that isn't performing hasn't even been told they're not performing. So it is an uncomfortable conversation. And if we get it right, and we've had that upfront conversation, usually 9, 10 times out of 10 or more, the team member being let go is not surprised at all. They shouldn't be surprised. I mean, sometimes people have an emotional reaction to something. They're disappointed maybe in themselves because they weren't able to achieve the thing they set out to achieve. But get this right, it's a much easier conversation. And now you've kind of set the time frame as to when and actually how to let go when it comes to the people side. So hopefully that's helpful. The second part is around initiatives. It could be a new service, a new product, something that we're putting in place. We're investing time and resources into it, and we hang on to it way too long and it's not working out. And this can happen in so many ways. Established businesses can have it happening. Startups can have it happening. It's really common in startups where money's being invested that they're doubling down on something that just isn't working. And they stay way too long. And sometimes, unfortunately, they run out of money and everything's done where they could have pivoted a lot sooner. So I think when it comes to initiatives, it's important that we lay that out similarly to the way I just talked about it with people. Here's what we think we're going to accomplish in terms of a return for the business for doing this. Here's what we think the timeline is. And that's great. We all get agreement on it. And at any point in time, if it falls below this, we need to meet, have a discussion around it as to when we can change. Now, you may not even have the luxury of enough resources to stay too long, so it's going to force your hand. Sometimes, organizations have a lot of resources and just let things go, and they end up wasting money for a really long time. A better approach would be if we start this new initiative, this new business, this new product line, service, whatever it is, we're going to invest X to get this return. This is how long we think it'll take to have it happen. This is what we project to have happening. And at any point in time, if it falls below this line, we are going to pull the plug or pivot. And we have an approach to how we would pivot and look at that. And if there's not a pivot that makes sense from an idea standpoint, we just pull the plug and we're absolutely done. And every time it doesn't work out with a team member because they didn't achieve the outcomes that they were hired to achieve, or an initiative doesn't work out and we end up pulling the plug, it is never a complete loss if you choose to learn from that experience. So when it comes to the people side, we get better when it doesn't work out at how we interview, and we want to reflect appropriately and incorporate that into our interviewing process. So when we're hiring, we're getting it right a higher percentage of the time. In finding superstars, especially as you move up to the top of an organization, if you get it right half the time, like really right, you're doing incredibly well. You get it right 75% of the time, you're kind of a unicorn. So managing expectations there, I've always said, I might have to do this 2, 3, and sometimes 4 times to really get it right, but it's worth the investment to get it right. Easier to get it right a much higher percentage of the time as you get closer to the front lines, because we're talking about things that are, very well defined in terms of skills and what needs to get done. As you become a senior leader, you have to be better at connecting all of these dots and making all these decisions. And a few of these decisions create by far the most value in every organization. And a few decisions can destroy the most value as well. So it's harder to get it right as a senior leader. But whenever you get it wrong, it doesn't matter where it is in the organization, there's a lot to learn there about improving the process going forward. And then same thing with initiatives. I personally have invested a lot of money in different things that didn't work out, learned so much where I'll take the learnings and apply it to another initiative or another business that I'm starting, or helping a client with their business, to help them learn from that so they can create value even faster and not fall into, certain traps. And when I think about a startup or a new initiative in an established company, new product, new service, whatever it is, there's 4 stages here. And I've talked about this before in previous podcasts, but there's the idea and how well you think through that and why it will work. It can't be, oh, here's this utopian state, and when we get there, it'll just be amazing and everybody will be making money and the world will be better. No, it's the idea has to be how we're going to move in that direction. And there'll likely be pivots along the way. And we have to manage expectations and understand that. So once we get the idea right, then, well, how would the business model work out? How's this really going to create value for the organization? And all of our decisions have to kind of fit into that. And then there's, hey, we've got some provable traction here on this new service or product or this business that we're starting up. That's wonderful. Now, how do we start packaging that so we can scale? So there's a lot that goes into that, almost no into it. And then the last step is scaling. And I think all 4 of those stages, from the idea to the business model to packaging to scaling, they're all incredibly hard. And I think the one that most don't spend enough time on is the idea piece of it. They just start running with something because it makes sense without really checking it out before they move forward. So I think that, the big lesson here for me, and all the times that I've done this, be super clear with team members about what's expected, and at every point in time where they stand regarding performance, when it's not going to work out because we're not getting the return on investment for this. And then same thing with initiatives, be super clear about what's expected, and measurably so when we're going to either pivot or pull the plug. Hope this is helpful.